Why retirees shouldn't go too wild after retirement, a thoughtful reflection. Retirement is often seen as a golden opportunity, a time when you can finally spread your wings and enjoy life on your own terms. After decades of hard work, many envision this phase as the perfect moment to relax, travel, pick up hobbies, and maybe even reinvent themselves. And while that's certainly a beautiful ideal, there's an important caveat that many overlook. Even though retirement is about freedom, it's crucial not to get carried away or lose sight of what truly matters. I want to share some reflections drawn from life experience and stories of many older adults here in the US and beyond on why we should be cautious about going overboard with the so-called retirement party, especially when it comes to relationships, habits, and family ties. Don't get too wild after retirement. When we retire, it's a chance to rest and heal after a lifetime of effort. Our bodies, our minds, our spirits. But resting doesn't mean reckless. It doesn't mean diving headfirst into bad habits or chasing fleeting pleasures that might feel good at the moment, but leave us empty or worse, lonely and disconnected in the long run. Take love, for example. The so-called late life romances can be sweet and uplifting, but they can also be complicated and painful if we rush into them without thought or caution. Not every new relationship in our later years is going to be a fairy tale. Sometimes those relationships bring stress, financial trouble, or emotional turmoil that can overshadow the peace and happiness we worked so hard to build. Similarly, when it comes to hobbies and pastimes, moderation is key. It's great to try new things, painting, gardening, golfing, or volunteering, but diving into unhealthy habits or excessive partying can quickly backfire. Family, the heart of our later years. Ultimately, as we age, everything circles back to family. The bonds we nurture with our spouse, children, and sometimes grandchildren are what truly matter. In the final chapters of life, these are the people who stick with us the longest. They're our home base, our anchor in an ever-changing world. I want to emphasize this because it's so easy to forget in our youth or middle age. We often take family for granted, assuming these bonds will be unbreakable and constant. But the truth is more nuanced. A story from Margaret, age 74, learning the hard way about family distance. Margaret, a 74-year-old woman living in a suburban town in Ohio, shared a story that really stuck with me. She and her late husband raised their only son with all the love and attention they could muster. From the moment he was born, he was their world. They enrolled him in music lessons, summer camps, sports teams, the whole 9 yards to make sure he never missed out. They sacrificed vacations, nice dinners, even new clothes for themselves, just to ensure he had the best education and opportunities possible. When he went off to college, Margaret and her husband agonized over every decision, choosing the right school, helping pick a major, and yes, even quietly supporting his first serious girlfriend with a little financial help because they wanted him to be happy. But here's where Margaret's story turns bittersweet. After their son graduated, found a job, got married, and had kids of his own, their family dynamic shifted dramatically. Suddenly, Margaret and her husband were no longer the center of their son's life. They became more like background characters, people who were there but not essential. Phone calls from their son became infrequent and often rushed. Visits were rare and usually brief. When Margaret and her husband visited their son's city for a weekend, hoping to stay with him and his family, he politely declined, saying he and his wife were too busy. Instead of an invitation to stay, they received a quick text with a digital gift card, a thanks for visiting gesture, but nothing more. Margaret realized then a painful truth that many parents face. While their home was always their son's home growing up, once he had a family of his own, their house wasn't his home anymore. His life's focus shifted to his wife and children, his own little world. The reality: parents and children are sometimes just passing through each other's lives. It's a tough pill to swallow, but there's a profound wisdom in this realization. In fact, a famous author, Joan Didion, once wrote about the way families drift apart and come together over time, and how relationships evolve beyond our youthful expectations. You might remember that when children are small, they cling tightly to their parents. They want their hands held, their parents' faces close by, their guidance at every turn. But as they grow into adults, their journey inevitably takes them away from us. They build their own lives, form new bonds, and sometimes, unintentionally, that distance feels like abandonment. This doesn't mean the love is gone, nor that children don't care. Far from it. It's just the natural course of life. Each generation has its own mission, its own burdens and responsibilities to shoulder. Learning to let go, the biggest lesson in aging. Margaret's husband fell ill a few years ago and eventually passed away, leaving her alone in their family home. She hoped her son would step in more, help care for her, or at least visit often. But her son, caught up in mortgages, work deadlines, and raising his own kids, could only manage brief visits on holidays. Margaret hired caregivers to help with daily needs, a solution many elders come to accept. This is not about resentment. Margaret doesn't blame her son. She understands that his family now comes first. It's just the way life goes. She learned to let go, gradually, painfully, but with dignity. She stopped calling him multiple times a day to complain or share every little worry. Instead, she focused on herself, on what she could control. She picked up hobbies again, joined a local book club, started volunteering at her church. She even rekindled old friendships she let slide during the busy years of parenting. This is the real gift she discovered in her later years: independence. Why independence and self-care matter more than ever. As seniors, our biggest responsibility is to ourselves. Yes, family is important, but they cannot be our sole source of happiness or security. We have to cultivate a life that feels fulfilling on its own. It's about balance, loving our children without expecting them to be our emotional caretakers. Supporting them, yes, but not at the expense of our own well-being. We must guard against loneliness not by clinging desperately to family ties, but by building a meaningful, active, and joyful life on our own. This means taking care of our health as a priority, saving a little money for emergencies and comfort, and keeping our minds and spirits engaged through hobbies, socializing, and even travel when possible. A final thought. Family ties are precious, but so is self-reliance. There's a beautiful quote from a poet named Maya Angelou that resonates here. When you learn, teach. When you get, give. In our twilight years, we give back by sharing wisdom, kindness, and stories, not by demanding or clinging. We love our children, yes, but we must also love ourselves enough to live well, independently and with grace. Retirement is a new chapter, not just a time to rest, but a time to flourish in new ways. So yes, celebrate your freedom, but don't lose sight of the big picture. Cherish your family, yes, but also cherish your own peace, your own passions, your own well-being. Because in the end, as we walk our separate paths, the greatest gift we can give each other is the freedom to live fully, each in our own way. Thank you for reading this reflection today. I hope it resonates with you, or someone you know navigating the complex dance of aging and family. If you found value in this, please subscribe and join me for more honest, heartfelt conversations about life's later seasons. Together, let's grow, find happiness, and age with dignity. Until next time.